Oh, you're back with us. Sorry about that. Gremlins tried to attack, but we're back. Now, I can't really remember where I was. Give me 2 seconds. Yes, I think I was saying the symbiotic relationship. So there has to be some sort of exchange for the tree and the fungi. And they'll take the sugar from the tree, and the sugar fuels the fungi to do the job, which is, of course, connect all of these trees together with fine hair-like tips. And apparently there's chemical and hormonal signals being pumped through these networks. And studies have actually showed that there's electrical signals completely out with our human realm. How can we ever imagine this? And scientists are saying they're just beginning to decipher the relationships between trees, which I just think is really incredible. And if you think of, there's actually an example of a gigantic beech stump, the beech trees, and it's in a forest. I can't remember which country, forgive me. I've been deep in this book and I can't remember where this one's from, but this stump was actually felled around 500 years ago, a really long time ago, and the stump is still bright green with chlorophyll, because all the surrounding beeches, all the surrounding beech trees were actually keeping this stump alive. So it'd been felled, but all the beech trees were keeping it alive. And they were keeping it alive by pumping sugar and nutrients through the underground network. You can hear the elephants trumpeting. It's not this herd. I think there's another herd nearby. I don't quite know who trumpeted there. This herd is very relaxed. So yes, this stump was being kept alive, which is just incredible. Tammy, it is. Who's making all this noise? I think it's coming over here. There's a youngster. There's a youngster running amok here. It's not an adult. But I can't see him. Can you see him? Oh, well done, Craig. Batman's on the car. Yes, Tammy, I agree. It makes you really think differently about trees and have a completely different appreciation for them. They're communal. They're helping keep every single one of them alive. And if you think of the forestry industry, that's quite sad when we're cutting down trees. So yes, that's my fascinating topic for today, but there's a lot more to say about it. So when you come back to us, we'll continue our fascinating discussion about trees.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but we're sitting here with this cheetah and the beautiful 2 cubs feeding. And now the monkeys might have been starting to alarm call towards these cheetahs, but there was a very weird sound, almost like a duiker or something like that being caught. But it's now quiet. Maybe it's just a young monkey that was hiding or something like that. Or yeah, let's just stay here for now. We can always go have a look later. Don't want to move right now because look at this beautiful scene that we have. She's now just gotten up and can probably stretch a little bit and so. Probably coming back for a last little bit of feed. She's a little bit agitated by these monkeys that's alarm calling now, because if they alarm call like this, it might let other predators know that there's something around here, and they might come and have a look. But let's see, I think they might rather stay around the Ngala that they've got here. The youngster on the left-hand side has been feeding since we've left you, and the other one was sleeping and obviously has now come to join. How beautiful is this female? If you think of the cheetah that we saw earlier, her stomach was hanging way more low and lower than this female, so I don't think she's eaten that much, but she's got two older youngsters, so I think she's letting them have most of it. You see how she's grooming herself there, just cleaning her paws a bit, trying to get the excess blood and so off. George, you are asking at what age cheetah cubs become independent. So there's a slight difference in that, seeing if there's siblings or so. If it's just one cub with a mother, quite often it takes quite a while for the youngster to leave its mom, but it's generally around a year and a half to 2 years around there that they'll live with their mother. Sometimes even as close to a year old or so. Oh, look at this beautiful sun coming through now. But as you can see, George, these two youngsters are completely dependent on meat now, not on milk anymore. Like when the mom was standing up, she didn't have any like hanging teeth below her stomach or anything like that. So give these youngsters about 6 months to a year or so, and they might also leave their mom. Oh, look at the beautiful sun coming through onto them now. Oh, these darn monkeys, I hope they sure don't alert any other predators of these cheetahs. But I think she looks fairly relaxed now. It's nice and open here around us, so I don't think she's too worried about anything sneaking up on them. Oh, this afternoon, beautiful afternoon light on them now. See, the youngsters are right around the neck there, so I think there's nice softer meat. You can hear actually a bit of crunching and so on as they are getting to maybe the vertebrae and so on. Look at this youngster, he might look this way when he turns his head. Oh, look at that, he's got like a reddish tinge to him with the sun falling on him. That's a little bit of blood that's on his face there. Oh, sad that there's an Ngala that had to go for this, but on the other hand, this female cheetah has now been able to give her little family something to eat and to survive and fight to live and for a little bit longer and fill their stomachs up. Rosalind, you're asking how the season would affect the hunting of cheetah. I think in this particular area, not so much, because our vegetation stays very similar throughout the whole year. The grass just becomes yellow, but it stays long. The trees and bushes stay fairly green. But in other areas, in the winter months, the vegetation might die down a little bit, and it might make it a little bit more difficult for her to hunt, because she'll have to seek a little bit better cover to sneak up on it. Depends on which areas, but some areas it has a massive effect on how they hunt, others not so much. In the winter times, I think in this particular area, in the areas where the vegetation dies down quite a bit, I think she'll resort to hunting in a little bit of thick air, but the grass is very long where we are here behind us in this open field, so I think that she was able to get nice and Ngala. Right up there was some lapwings that were alarm calling close to the watering hole. So those lapwings were alarm calling, I think, to these cheetahs maybe lying down here. So she was just keeping an eye out what the sound and racket was about. Oh, but listen to those monkeys, they're just keeping on going. Let's see. Oh, we might see some grooming happening. Here we go. Hello, Mom. If she turns her head now towards the young's face, so you might see a bit of grooming happening. Let's just have a look. It's about. She will probably relax down a bit. I think we're going to stick around and have a look what happens here. Maybe look out what those monkeys are alarm calling for.
The rest of the herd has crossed into Torchwood, but we've got one loner down here, hopefully going to cross in front of us and we can get beautiful views. Now, going back to my tree theory, it's new science. I'm also learning. It's a very new topic for me, but it's just really, really fascinating, that underlying sort of concept behind it. And they actually relate the network, how they all share nutrients, pump each other with nutrients to keep one another alive when one tree is struggling, to elephants. And that's what sparked that topic of conversation off. And elephants are generally really reluctant to abandon the weak or the old or the dead. They will try their hardest to keep any individual of the herd alive, pumping them with whatever they need, encouraging them to drink, helping them keep cool, especially when it's a matriarch. And the reason I say that is the theory suggests that in any ecosystem, a forest, or even here in a savanna, there
Good afternoon to all the viewers, and we are back here at andBeyond Ngala, where we have just come across the scene. Hi, I am Yapi, and I'll be taking you into the last hour of this drive this afternoon. Now, we've come back to this wild dogs that Eric was mentioning we left earlier to go search for a leopard, and we were lucky enough to come across the scene with this large hyena that's just moved into the picture. You see some of the dogs off to the right. They've just picked up their head. Don't seem too concerned. And here's the other hyena we had earlier as well. This one looks like the younger one, as Eric has pointed out. And this was the one hanging around, just moving around, checking carefully what the dogs were doing. But now with this bigger one, it looks like there's a little bit more confidence. You can see the tails up of the one in front. They don't seem too interested in them moving off, but I'm sure they're going to stay within the area. You can see one of the dogs have just picked up its head and put it back down on the far right, and at the back another one did the same. They've moved slightly from where they were earlier in the shade of that green bush just off to their left, and at this point I think they are quite content. They're just keeping an eye on the hyenas for now and enjoying that late afternoon sun. There's quite a cool breeze coming through this area at the moment, but they're still quite full, and I think that's a big part of why we haven't seen any action. Thank you very much, Ryan. It is good to be here, and hopefully we'll be able to have a lot of fun on these live safaris in the next couple of weeks. So I see the hyena has just moved back into the area. It's a little bit further off to our left, but he's just stopped and he's staring straight at where the dogs are laying down. From their side, they don't even seem bothered at all. That's a good question. I have been a guide for 4.5 years now, and the entirety of that time I've spent right here on Ngala. And it's been probably the best 4.5 years of my life. Being able to see amazing animal interactions like what we're seeing now is, I think, one of the biggest privileges there is. And being able to do this on a regular basis, I feel truly fortunate. And we're basically just experiencing a small little window into all of these animals' lives, where we could have been doing something else this afternoon, but now we're witnessing a little bit of a of an ongoing feud between these two, or an ongoing relationship, so to speak. You can see slowly but surely that hyena seems to have just pulled up a little bit of courage. It's moving closer and closer. Its nose is down on the ground. The other one is not far behind it, off to the left. And it's slowly moving. Each time it moves around the dogs, it's closing the circle and it's coming a little bit closer. You can see now both of them have their noses down on the ground. And it looks like they're sniffing the area where the dogs were laying down earlier. You can see there's two dogs with their heads up off to the right. They're keeping their heads down. One's just put it down a little bit forward. Ears are down as well. And although they look quite timid and they look like they're not going to do much. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. I think there was even a little bit of a bark there. I think maybe that dog there on the far left was taken a bit by surprise. But now I can see some interaction happening off to the far right. And looks like some of them might settle down again. I think that was the meet and greet for the afternoon. Now we might see some action. I'm sure these two hyenas will probably move to the last spot where they were laying down, maybe sniff around there. Ooh, it looks like they got something there. I'm not sure exactly what that is. At this point I can't see. But it might be some of the dogs' scat from earlier on during the afternoon or the day. You can see the pack members have all settled back down. Megan, yes, wow, what a sighting. I agree with you. Like, it is such an incredible thing to witness, to see how these animals interact. And when we normally think about them, you don't always think wild dog, hyena, you don't think of them as a pair of top predators coexisting. But there is a huge part of their lives within this area particularly that I guess you can say depend on each other, but it's also how they define their different habits. The hyenas in this particular area, like these two, they often find other predators, leopard or wild dogs in this case, and then they might follow them. And they might wait until they make a hunt and then try and steal something from them. The wild dogs, on the other hand, they are just trying to go on with their daily lives. And you can see now that they spread out and they've got an eye on the hyenas, they don't look too bothered. Look at this hyena right in front here rolling around. I'm not sure exactly what it's rolling around in. Okay, now very good question. Are hyenas and wild dogs related in any way? They are not related. They might have had a common ancestor long, long ago, but as things stand, they are not related. I think the closest living relative of the hyenas at the moment might be things like the genets or the mongooses, where the wild dogs, they on the other hand, they are canines. And they are not related in that respect. Two completely different species, they've evolved differently. They got different habits. Even though they might change that to coexist. You can see the hyena right in front here. He's just been having, looks like it's picked up on the scent. The wind is quiet down a little bit. I think myself and Owen, we're going to sit here and keep watching to see what's going to happen in this case. And, but I think for now, the dogs are just going to lay down and the hyenas might stick around.
We'd like to follow up on the lion we had this morning, but just having a quick stop here at the dam to see what's out and about. So far, just some bird life. This lovely little blacksmith lapwing foraging for food along the water's edge, as they often do in the late evenings. Very quick little birds. They'll often stand motionless and then dash forward as they spot their prey, either aquatic invertebrates or worms and insects. Maybe this one's checking itself out in the mirror. Always life along the water's edge, even if it's only bird life. Elizabeth, you agree it is a beautiful reflection in the water. The last of the golden light casting the mirror-like sheen on the top of the water. A lovely afternoon. The wind seems to have died down a little. Still a breeze, but it seems to be calming down, this cold front that we had. I'm sure the animals have enjoyed the cool spell. Sammy Jane, you reckon this is the best bird in the bush? They are interesting and fun to watch and common around our waterways out here in the bush. I like how they freeze and then dash forward once they spot their prey. Can also be very noisy. They're ground nesters, so their eggs will be deposited in a little scraping on the ground, often very camouflaged. You hardly see them, but sometimes on a bushwalk, when you walk too close to their eggs, they will become frantic and chirp very noisily, trying to distract you as they fly around. Also interesting that they're generally monogamous birds, meaning a pair will remain together for mating purposes.
Okay, welcome back. So as you can see, there's some of the members of the pack up at the back there. They have just started with their ritual greeting, and the hyenas in the foreground, they don't seem to be too bothered yet. I think we'll only really start to see more action from them once the dogs start getting up and getting a little bit more playful. The one that was off to the left earlier, after they scattered for the little fright they got from the hyenas, have now moved over to the rest of them, and I think it might have also just been a quick greeting. You can see it looks like there's another two up on the far right. And look at that one on the left. You see the heads low down. It's slowing down. Looks like it's in stalking mode. Up, and there it goes. amazing how they seem so determined to stalk and chase the others, and then once they get nearby, they just immediately stop. You can see a lot of sniffing going on there. They're sniffing each other's backside, one trying to get up on the other one, tails up. Looks like there's a lot of excitement there. Now it's often quite difficult to discern exactly what they It's often very difficult to see exactly what they're doing when they do that. Looks like it might just be siblings playing around. Now it seems like they've settled back down. Now I was thinking earlier, but I'm not entirely sure since we don't really know a lot about this pack of wild dogs. It looks like the two off to the left might be a little bit older than some of these off on the right. And although they're watching in the other direction, it seems like from the attention that the ones off to the right is giving those three actually, now I see there's a third one as well, might be that the three on the left hand side are the more senior dogs within this pack. There's one at the back wandering off a little bit. You can see the ears are up high. It's scanning into the distance beyond the clearing. And the hyena has just gotten up as well. Lorica, that's a very good question. Why are the wild dogs' ears round? Now, I am not entirely sure, to be honest, and it is something that I'm going to have to go and find out about a little bit more, and then I'll have to come back to you at some later stage. But it might have to do with the structure, the general shape. Maybe it's got to do with the fact they're moving quickly, so they need large ears that will be able to not just hear well enough, but also be able to take all the beating that it does when they move quickly through the bush. Also, I know that I have read an article that suggested it might have to do something with their body heat regulation, and also the size of the ears means larger surface area. So in that case it means that it helps with them losing heat quicker, especially after a quick chase on a very, very hot summer's day. We can just see one up. He's heading to the one that moved off to the further side at the back. Oh, there we go. Let's see what happens there. They might start chasing each other. You can see the one sniffing where the other one was laying down. I think now we might start to see a little bit of movement. You can see now that one is rolling around exactly in the same spot where the other one was laying down. Sniffing the ground again. Shaking his head. Maybe he didn't like what he was smelling there. And you can see they're both facing in the opposite direction. Scanning through into the distance along the edges where the antelopes might be. So I think me and Owen's going to sit here and we'll see what happens. See if they might get started moving.
We can't escape the elephants. Every road we drive, there's herds of elephants, and we've got this little youngster suckling. Isn't that lovely? Mom is feeding on a young cluster leaf, and the youngster is suckling. Another connection to the tree theory, actually, because the theory is that there's matriarch trees, but they call them mother trees. And let's just take young saplings as an example. So young saplings are maybe in a really deeply shaded part of the forest, and they lack the sunlight to photosynthesize, but they're surviving through the network, which is a lifeline. And the big trees, including the parent trees, are pumping sugar into their roots through this special network. So they're said to be mother trees that actually suckle their young, in inverted commas here. I think that's a bit of a stretch saying that. But there's mother trees that once they're very big and various, as we see you, yes, why are you trying to photobomb this shot? So these matriarch stroke mother trees don't actually suckle their young, but what they do is they look after all the young trees that are struggling by pumping the nutrients, i.e. sugar, that they need to help them grow. And they are then termed the mother trees. And that's why this theory links so closely to elephants. And this one here is suckling, but we can't see it because someone else wants all the attention. Mother trees are not necessarily the mothers, but they're said to be the biggest and oldest trees in the forest, and they're the ones with the most fungal connections. So the ones with the most fungal connections are the ones that are said to be the mother trees, but they're not necessarily the mothers. Martin, you're asking how old do I think this baby is that I now can no longer see. A good gauge. You're going to block me again, aren't you? It's perfect. That's perfect, that view. Because a good gauge is when a young calf can actually fit under its mummy's tummy. So it's small enough to fit under its mummy's tummy. It's said to be normally around a year. So I think this youngster is probably a little over a year. It's very small, but it's walking well. Keep getting head shakes on that, your other teenager. And yes, it's a little bit bigger. When you see a newborn calf, they are so much smaller. So I'd say this one is probably a little bit around a year margin, but it's very difficult to gauge. It really is difficult. You look at the size, the mobility, and how they're using their trunk. It's a good way to gauge age. But it's only estimations, Martin. Look at this one, completely pulling over the whole tree. Look, using his legs. That young tree. Oh. Although elephants look like they cause sort of mass destruction, apparently you all heard that, yes, crack, down it goes. They are ecosystem engineers. And just like many other organisms are ecosystem engineers, that's what the part that elephants play here. The way that they do push trees down like that is actually vital for the ecosystem. So it does look terrible. I've had to stop and move trees off the road all day. It's actually really important. There's lots of ecological reasons for that. So that's why they're called either ecosystem engineers or ecosystem architects, because they're developing, they're rebuilding the entire ecosystem, and it's actually essential. We've got a big one coming up here, great, just on this side. So keep my eye on this elephant. As I watch this big elephant coming. So as I let this herd pass, we are going to try and drive up the eastern cut line and maybe find something that's not an elephant.
So we've been sitting here for quite a bit now, and as it gets a little bit darker, you can see the sun, or the sun has just started, or about to set behind the clouds in the background there. And both these youngsters and they have not stopped eating for at least. There's a couple away from us that started to wake up a little.
What a beautiful sunset. Calling the end to another day. And even better than that, we've managed to relocate our male lion from this morning right here next to us, also enjoying his siesta as the evening cools down. He hasn't moved very far from where we had him this morning, about 200 meters maybe. Very peaceful out here. Just some birds calling in the distance. And our snoring Mr. Blondie. If you could call it snoring, more like contented breathing. Every now and then a little audible rumble. I'm happy that we managed to relocate him. We're going to sit here and see if there's any movement.
Alright, so we've just started seeing some action here. The wild dogs have just gotten up. You can see up ahead of us, it looks like 3 of the younger ones. They're still playing around, they're sniffing around on the ground. But the other 2 have already moved a little bit further down. I've just got a whiff of them, and they don't smell too great, to be honest. Some people think it is a smell that is an absolute mind-bending smell. The moment you smell it, you almost get addictive to it. The 2 hyenas are just laying down off to my left over here. They don't seem like they're going to move yet, but looks like these wild dogs are going to be moving down in a southerly direction, which is more or less where the wind is coming from at this point. I think they are following their nose at this stage. Oh, alright, no, it looks like they've changed direction. You can see the other hyenas up as well now. They might greet each other, these 2. Brief greeting before they're going to continue and probably follow the pack members. Not. It's amazing how they don't always do what you think they might do. We are hoping as well that these wild dogs might be going on a hunt, and I think we should follow them to see. There's a watering hole nearby where there might be a lot of animals in the clearings, and I think they're probably going to head there and go and see if there might be animals in that part that's either going down for a drink or that's just started to settle down in the clearings nearby for the night. They are still very full. If I have a look at them, I can see their bellies are still very round, like this one here at the back. Ooh, it's just sitting down. Looks a little bit lazy as well. And then the other 2 that still moved further down in the direction. The one on the far left is looking. You can see all of them is looking down in that direction. Myself, I can't see any of the others at this point. I'm not sure if they can. They do have excellent eyesight. Now they're slowly but surely going to follow the road in the direction of the watering hole. Neil, that's a good question. Statistically speaking, I am not sure what it is. I do know that it is often the alpha male or the beta male that leads the charge when they do hunt. But a wild dog hunt is often so chaotic that the one actually getting on to the animal and grabbing on, that one would determine which one is closer towards the animal. Now, I'm just going to start up, and we're slowly going to start following these animals. Because they're moving slowly for now, but once they get moving, then it might be very difficult to keep up with them. Ooh, you can see the hyena is not actually following them. But you can see they're moving down the road, and I think we're going to keep following them, myself and Aaron. Into that beautiful sunset. Yo.
So look who we found. Here at Leopard Dam, Lagatha the Lioness has finally appeared after 3 days of us seeing glimpses of her tracks here and there, and she's looking healthy and well, which is fantastic. Great to see that she's still doing well. It's actually interesting. We were just coming to Leopard Dam and we thought we'd actually look at the sunset, and we noticed that it's very still, yet there were ripples in the water. And we thought that's very odd. How can there be ripples with no wind? And then we saw a lion track, and we both knew, Seb and I, that this lion must have been drinking here, and that's what the ripples in the water are from. And I just did a short walk to find its tracks, and then she just bolted from behind a termite mound. But she didn't go far. She just stopped about 50 meters away, and she sat down again, so she's relaxed. But it's awesome. We're giving her a bit of time to get used to us once again. She hasn't seen us for a few days. Or, in fact, she probably has seen us. We haven't seen her, though, for a few days. But it's good to see she's doing well. So what we'll do in a moment is we'll actually get a bit closer to her, just to see if we can get a different view. But we don't want to worry her. We don't want to rush her, because she does look like she's relaxed. And, you know, it's actually so nice to have her here again. She must have been hunting for the last few days. And when we get a bit closer, we'll be able to see if she's eaten. Kimberly, she has become the Queen of Pride Lands, definitely our monarch. Oh, look at this big yacht. Oh. And the Queen is just luxuriating in the grass there. She's more like a princess, actually. She hasn't reached queen status yet. I think she's still so young and fresh. She's got a lot of wisdom to gain, but there you can see how she's moving along. Actually, she's going in the direction of where we passed many impalas earlier, just feeding on the grassy areas adjacent to the road. Let's actually take ourselves a little bit closer to her to see if we can get another glimpse as she walks towards the road. It'll also be a good way to gauge how she reacts to the vehicle. After sleeping next to... Oh, she's actually walking straight towards us. I don't know if you can see her through there, Seb. She might walk straight towards us. Let's just have a look. She's just making her way right towards us. Let's see how close she gets to us. If she keeps following this game path, it actually walks right in front of us. It'll be amazing to see if she does do that, because that'll mean that she's become much more confident and comfortable, especially after she saw me on foot. Oh, look at her. She's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, striding with confidence, but you can see the spots all over her legs, so you know that she's still quite young. This is amazing, everyone. The first time I saw her a month ago, she ran from the vehicle like a cheetah on full sprint. And now she literally is coming sauntering just next to us. I wonder if she's investigating something there, because that's exactly where I spotted her first, where she bolted from behind that termite mound. I wonder if she's not maybe investigating a warthog. I know that it's an active warthog burrow. I wonder if she's maybe looking to catch a warthog. It's quite a tricky prey. I might just drive us forward again. It looks like she's stopped behind it. She's not emerging from behind the mound. Drive us forward a little bit more. If she is looking for a warthog, she looked quite slender. It might be that she hasn't actually eaten in a few days, and then she's looking at things which are maybe a little bit out of her experience range. A warthog is a tough animal to try and catch, to be honest. You can see that mound there, lots of holes all over it. Let's see if we spot Lagatha. Maybe she's playing hide and seek with us. There she is, just in the grass there. Can you see her there, Seb? Just going to stay very still. She's got her head down low in the grass. So she's still a little bit nervous. I don't know if it's of the vehicle, or maybe she's seen a warthog and she's waiting for it to come out. I don't know. But you can see there, she's got her head low in the grass, hiding in the smallest tufts of grass there. Oh, and there she lies down on her side. It's interesting. You can always tell the behavior of a big cat, if it's upset or not. She looks pretty relaxed. Miss Pixie, I don't know where her pride is, or even which pride she belongs to be honest. Maybe if we found some photographic evidence, some histories through the landowners in this area to see maybe where she originated, but for the moment we can't figure that out. But she has been seen feeding with a young male who had a limp not so long ago, maybe a month and a half ago. So we know she has some interactions with other lions in the area. And what we were thinking is that maybe she got pushed out by large, stronger males as they moved in, potentially. And she's quite young, so maybe she wasn't mating yet, so they chased her off. But they'll allow her back once she reaches her maturity. So whichever pride she came from will most likely take her back. Lions are very social animals. They're never usually alone like this. How amazing. Look at that. We actually, Seb and I, think that we drove past her, because if she was in this exact spot where she is now, we wouldn't have seen her. It's unbelievable, right? She's great camouflage. So we drove straight past the dam, saw the ripples, saw the tracks, and then I basically backtracked her to where she is, and she bolted, but now she's come back. So it is quite possible that there are warthogs in these burrows right now, that she's hoping to catch a young warthog or a piglet. Of course, we know warthogs are not nocturnal animals, so unless they're out at the moment, they probably won't come out again until tomorrow morning. I don't think that she would wait all the way until tomorrow morning. There you can see a nice big hole. There's holes all over this mound. So they've got other escape routes as well. But it's all good practice for her. If she manages to catch one, she must be careful though of the large adult warthogs. They've got very sharp tusks that come out of their mouth, and there's shorter tusks on the bottom jaw which are sharp as daggers, and they can really slice her up if she's not careful. So she would have to really try and catch one of the young warthogs, one of the piglets. I think there's a warthog family here that has 3 youngsters. Not piglets as such, more like sub-adults, but not big enough yet to cause her really any major harm. But yeah, she does have to be careful. Well, we're going to sit with Lagatha for the rest of the afternoon, the evening, just to see what she gets up to.
From the lioness to the lion, still here with our big boy, snoozing away. No hunting for him just yet, perhaps later. I've received reports that the Nkuhumas are too far, just across the boundary on another property. So perhaps you'll link up with them tonight. He is still a magnificent specimen in his prime. Unfortunately, it doesn't last forever. In a few years from now, he'll be too weak to maintain the territory. The coalition may fail as the younger, stronger blood comes through. It's interesting, someone was asking me earlier about lion and what they do as they get older. We were chatting about it this morning. They often resort to weaker prey, sometimes going into the communities and grabbing livestock, cows and goats, even dogs. I've had a couple dogs eaten by lion growing up out here. It's very common. Anyone who's grown up in the bush will probably have had a dog eaten by a lion. Yet he's in his prime and still able to hunt, although shame he does have a bit of a limp, but hopefully that'll heal up in the coming weeks and months. Stitch cat, you asking, does this lion snore? I said earlier he was snoring, but it's actually more of a little bit of a grumble, like a content grumble. They've got very highly developed voice box vocal cords that often emits a bit of a grumble just from exhaling. That's what allows it to roar so loudly. So no, he doesn't snore. humans, he just even let out a little bit of rambling breath of air. And even though he looks fast asleep, the smallest twitch or snapping twig will alert him and he'll be on his feet instantly. Always sleeping with one ear open, so to speak. It's been a lovely afternoon so far. This is my last safari on Djuma for this time period that I'm here, so I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the drive, sitting with this big boy, seeing what he gets up to.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Right, look at this. Anyone can spot her? I don't think so. Not if you're driving past and you're not really aware that she's around. Right about now you start to be able to discern that there's something in the grass, but you wouldn't know what it was. Still now you're walking along, and then you go, oh, whoopsie, I've made a big mistake. That's a lion. It's sort of what happened now when I was walking out. To be honest, I didn't even see her. I was focused on the tracks and just sort of had a feeling, like a gut feeling. It was on top of, we've seen all these impalas here, and there was a lot of impala tracks, and her tracks were on top of everything. And we both knew she must be close. Amazing to see how resilient she is. Seeing a human being on foot is one of the most terrifying things an animal can experience, because they have an instinctive knowledge that a human is a dangerous animal. That's why they always run from us, or generally speaking, they run from us. But she only bounded away 30 meters or so, and then she's come straight back to where she was, and now she's asleep. She's a very resilient animal, incredible in fact. And her ears are down so that she doesn't get a silhouette of anything that might pop out of that hole. And you can see that she's even closed her eyes. She's in a relaxing kind of mode, but she's listening. She's alert. If anything does come out of that mound, she'll be there in a flash. She looks relaxed, but she'll be undoubtedly able to spring like a coil like a spring like a coil, spring like a coil. Yeah, I think that's the phrase. She'll be very quick. They can move, I think it's around 80 kilometers an hour when they're at full sprint. Now she won't be able to get to full sprint in that short distance between here and the mound, but she'll certainly cover it in just 1 or 2 bounds, which would be amazing to see. Seb was just saying now, we should just sit here the whole night and see if we can catch her like grabbing something. But then we both said, the warthogs are probably not going to come out now when it's dark. They'll only come out again tomorrow morning. We're going to come here straight away in the morning. Hopefully we'll find her again, maybe even in the same spot, waiting for the warthogs to emerge from what will almost certainly be a cold night. It would be amazing to see her in action again tomorrow.
Seeing lions in action is the cherry on top, but we spend so much time with them. Fast asleep, as you've been seeing, but getting to see them on the hunt or on the move is so magnificent to watch. Watch their powerful bodies as they move and go about their day. This big boy has now lifted his head and smelling the wind. Oh, lovely big yawn there. Rousing from his slumber, he looks like he needs a coffee. Thank you everyone for the well wishes. It's been a lovely week out here. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next time. Always special to be out here in the greater Kruger. Oh, he really is yawning a lot. I'm going to start yawning soon if I keep watching him. Look at those eyes. Half asleep yet still penetrating. That deep yellow. A look only a lion can give you. Look at those scars on his nose and on his face. No doubt from conflicts and tussles with his brothers. Look at those teeth. King of beasts. He's speaking to us. Maybe he's bidding me farewell. Thank you, boy. Is he sad I'm leaving? I've been spending so much time with him over these last couple of days. He's so beautiful, cuddly. I almost want to go and scratch him behind his ears. Would you like that? Yes. There's no words I can give to encapsulate this moment sitting out here with this big boy. Not just listening and hearing to his roar, but literally feeling it in my chest as it reverberates like a drum. The bass that's emitted from a lion 5 yards away, roaring, is something to behold. It's a real privilege. Louis, you say your TV was vibrating on the wall. Not hard to imagine. Not only can he roar, but he can do that. You better be careful there with his grooming, nibbling very close to the crown jewels. He is really giving us a show this evening. From a sleepy cat to pulling out all the stops. Quite bizarre, isn't it? Well, I think he's feeling a bit sorry for himself. He did spend the last few days giving it horns with the Nkuhuma female, so to speak. Now he's just plain old worn out. Tia's giving us all a favor there, not zooming in too closely, but very interesting penis that the cats have. Almost spiked and barbed. He's seen something, or heard something. His attention's been diverted, but we're going to stick with him. See if there's any movement. What a lovely few moments with the king of the bush giving us the purest sound in Africa.
So the Queen of Pride Lands, still just lying flat down here, eyes closed. And we were just discussing how she would go about the rest of her evening. Will she stay here and play the patient waiting game with these warthogs that are quick link to someone else?
Who's the king? It's him, and he knows that this is his piece of bush. His domain. I believe everyone thoroughly enjoyed that. What a privilege to spend time with a roaring male lion. Butterfly, so it's very mind-blowing, that roar. It is. It's amazing, eh? Like I say, amazing to see on screen. To feel it in your chest right here is just something I can't describe. That sound travels so far through the bush. Deep resonating roars as they communicate and display their authority.
They're everywhere. We haven't managed to check as much at the reserve today as we wanted to because there's elephants everywhere. And we're now in infrared because there's not enough ambient light. Craig actually timed the sunset. 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Probably not so accurate, but from where we were, it was 2 minutes and 24 seconds when that lower half, that sort of lower circle of the sun hit the horizon until it disappeared. Now, just to finish up on my discussions of today, when you think about trees sharing resources and forming sort of alliances with trees of their own species and others, surely that would go against the laws of natural selection because they should be competing for sunlight, competing for water, competing for nutrients in the soil. But actually, it wouldn't make evolutionary sense for trees to sort of behave in a greedy fashion or in a resource-grabbing sort of way. They actually survive and thrive together, and they live longer and reproduce more often in a healthy, stable forest where they're all communal and communicating with this sort of wood vibe intelligence And that's why they've evolved along with their neighbours. This is very similar to elephants. Elephants survive and thrive because of the herd. They're not competing with one another. There's nothing to compete for. An elephant has to learn. And normally they learn from the matriarch and all the sort of older females. It's a long process of teaching the calf how to survive, how to navigate the landscape, how to avoid threats, how to go from area to area which has the most sort of the best resources, the best food, the water in winter, during droughts, where do they go? And we call this culture. Culture and knowledge is passed down from the matriarch. She has such a pivotal, integral role. The herd needs her. Every herd must have a matriarch. And that's why, through evolution, elephants have sort of naturally evolved through natural selection to live for the herd life. Otherwise, they wouldn't survive. They wouldn't survive out here on their own. They are communal. They are social. And that's why they really need one another. Even the males grow up as part of the herd life before they're ousted. They wouldn't survive otherwise. It wouldn't make sense to compete with one another when you're an elephant. Now, this is not applicable for all species, of course, but when we're talking about elephants, it's very similar to that same concept that I'm bringing to light of the trees. I think there's a lot about elephants we've still to learn, especially when they're passing down their knowledge to one another. You get elephants that are good matriarchs, but you also get females that don't make good matriarchs. You can fail as a matriarch, and another female can come in and take over. It's not often, but in special places like Amboseli, there's records of that. Not every female can be the matriarch. Not every female will be the matriarch. It takes a certain individual, a certain elephant to take on that role. So I'm going to try to navigate Cornsey without bumping into any large grey mammals to see what else we can find.
So elephant herds are matriarchal, and so are lions in my opinion. I know that everyone says the males are the kings, but I think this queen over here will one day have a pride of her own, and she'll make all the decisions to keep them safe and to raise the young ones. As you can see, she's just very well camouflaged in the grass, just hiding herself low down, actually sleeping right now. Seb and I were actually wondering whether during this windy day she was actually quite active. It hasn't been hot, it's been very windy, and so she's probably been moving about looking for hunting opportunities the whole day. And it's meant to potentially get windy again tomorrow evening. So if she hasn't caught anything by then, she'll have another great opportunity to do some hunting tomorrow evening as well. And it looks like it might be cloudy too. So wind plus clouds on a dark night, I mean, that's everything a lion could hope for great hunting opportunities. Annie Wright, you've asked who's the strongest hunter of all the big cats, I think, if I understand correctly. That's a good question. I mean, they all have slightly different hunting techniques. If we're talking about the African big cats, if you are talking about the African big cats, I mean, lions usually hunt in prides. There's usually a number of them. This lioness is a bit different. She's on her own, only for now. So she'll be hunting much like a leopard hunts, trying to stalk as close as possible to its prey before doing a final rush. But normally a lion pride like this would hunt using teamwork, flushing an animal into the direction of some other waiting predators, or other waiting lions. I think, pound for pound, a leopard is probably stronger than a lion, because they have these short, stocky bodies to lift their prey up into the trees to avoid the attentions of lions and hyenas. I mean, lions are much larger, 2 to 3 times the weight of a leopard, and twice the height. So, their body is larger and therefore more powerful, but a leopard is a stocky, strong animal. I remember once being with a vet. They were doing some work on some collared lions, and they darted the lion, they took blood samples and released them. It was all fine. And then we also, darted and collared a leopard. And when they tried to put the needle in the forearm of the leopard to find a vein, he did say something that stuck with me. He said it's like trying to push the needle through a block of wood. That's how tight and powerful a leopard's muscles are, especially on their forearms and shoulders, from lifting an animal into the tree. So think of the big cats. Leopards are probably the most powerful. Tigers and other animals, other big cats in other parts of the world are also massive, powerful animals. I think tigers are the heaviest of all the big cats, and a jaguar is bigger than a leopard. So they're powerful in their own right, also probably with very different hunting styles and techniques. So that's awesome. I've never been lucky enough to see jaguars in Brazil, in the Pantanal, or anywhere, or tigers in India. I'd love to, though. But what I do have is this gorgeous lioness here in Pride Lands. It's good enough.
Just going to finish now. This boy is being very vocal tonight. Calling and calling quite frequently, every 3 to 5 minutes, which is very frequent. Now he's sitting, listening perhaps for a reply from the pride or perhaps his brothers. Reverberating roars, maybe he's wishing me a farewell. I'll take that. Nancy has a lot to say tonight. Yes, he does. I wonder what he just said. Over here. Bring me the buffalo. My foot's sore. I don't feel like hunting. Who knows? What lions communicate through those roars, we'll probably never know, but it's one of the mysteries of the bush. How they communicate over many kilometers in the bush, several kilometers, and further to the west, the desert lions towards Kalahari and the coast. Accounts of their roars being heard between each other, between 30 and 40 kilometers away. Isn't that incredible? I met a guy who was researching lions there, and he had one with the GPS collar. And he was sitting with another lion 35 kilometers away, and it started roaring, and he saw the little GPS blip on his screen get up and start walking in that direction, which proved that lion's brother heard it at 35 kilometers. Of course, that's in the desert, but still, it's amazing how far those roars travel. Sound out here at night, in the winter especially. Lots of nocturnal birds starting to chirp and make their calls. Monique from London, you've noted a fiery-necked nightjar. Well done there on that identification. That characteristic bushveld sound. Well, it has been a fascinating week. We've really had some lovely sightings. Bush has been busy. I really enjoyed the Simbambili property. Spent some interesting hours here following and tracking these lions. All very successful game drives, and thoroughly enjoyed the week with the production. Everyone on staff, the presenters, the cam ops, technicians, everyone is just so accommodating and welcoming. It really is a lovely team and a privilege to be a part of it. What a privilege to be able to bring this to you live as we speak, sitting here with this majestic lion in the middle of the bush, listening to him roar, being able to broadcast it to you all around the world. been a privilege and a lovely evening. I think that's probably going to be it from me. This lovely lion here. Until next time, cheers.
And a very lovely evening to you too, David. We were so lucky. We've just come across the Birmingham Pride. And from where they come, it was a bit of a puzzle. We've been looking for them for quite a while now. We had part of them last night. And today they've pretty much moved around like ghosts. And then finally, the trackers Adam and Thomas have managed to find them. Right here, pretty much on the other side of the reserve from where they were last night. And you can see there's a bit of movement. Some of them have their heads up. Some of them look like they couldn't care less. And they've probably been in the same position for most of the day. It's a bit of scratching going on. And you can see the ears are up. And they're just listening out. Trying to listen and hear what's happening in the night. And this is how the evening starts out for them. Slow movements, trying to pick up on all the small sounds and things happening around them. And I'd like to say, we've had an amazing day with lions, with elephants, and thank you to all the viewers for a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow.